Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Durham Public Schools Board of Education monthly meeting is now in session. At this time, we wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone who is joining us this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to inform our parents, staff, and constituents about the work aligned with our mission to embrace, educate, and empower every student to innovate, serve, and lead. The interpreters for tonight are Martha Romo Urgiles and Vanessa Pina Ramirez. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Have a room full tonight, everybody. And we appreciate you all being here. The first item on our agenda is a moment of silence. This past week, our community has spent time honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Dr. Lavonia Allison, a member of our community, an educator, and a leader of change. I'd like us all to take this moment to remember them, honor their legacies as we reflect on the words of Dr. King. Dr. King shared a message at a Cleveland high school on April 26, 1967, that resonates at a time such as this. And so there are things that all of us can do, and I urge you to do it with zeal and with vigor. And let me say to you, my friends, that in spite of the difficult days ahead, the so-called white backlash, which is nothing but a new name for an old phenomenon, I'm still convinced that we're going to achieve freedom right here in America. And I believe this because however much America has strayed away from the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned as we may be, our destiny is tied up with the destiny of America. He goes on to remind the students of the words of Langston Hughes, where he has a mother talking to a son. That mother says, "Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and boards torn up, places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time, eyes have been climbing and reaching landings and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So, boy, don't you stop now. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it's kind of hard. For I still going, I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal stair, but we must keep moving. We must keep going. And so if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. So let's think of Dr. King and Dr. Allison and their legacies in this moment of silence. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is celebrations. Ms. Cooper?
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Rogers, board members, Superintendent Lewis, DPS colleagues, and Durham community. Welcome to Celebrations. Education is a journey that thrives on effort, dedication, and teamwork. The Celebrations segment of this evening's meeting provides an opportunity for us to reflect on the bright moments and positive impact being made across our district. Tonight, we celebrate the individuals who go above and beyond to make DPS not just a school district, but a community. Due to a conflict this evening, we will acknowledge our Student of the Month during our February meeting. We are thrilled to announce our Alumni of the Month in partnership with the Durham Public Schools Foundation, followed by our Teacher and Employee of the Month. At this time, please welcome Katie Spencer-Wright, Director of Communications from the DPS Foundation, for our Alumni of the Month presentation.
Hi, thank you very much.
DPS Foundation is partnering with DPS to honor alumni whose lives were shaped by their time in Durham Public Schools and the educators and staff that nurtured them. I'm so proud to announce that Audrey Hawkins is our DPS Alum of the Month for January. Audrey is a graduate of Southern High School, where she participated in the City of Medicine Academy, played alto saxophone in the Symphonic Soul of the South Marching Band, and was crowned Homecoming Queen in 2007. Today, Audrey serves as a senior operations specialist at Merck and leads the League of Employees of African Descent, an employee business resource group focused on increasing the pipeline of African descent leaders and driving innovation through cultural insights. Audrey reflects on her time in Durham Public Schools as instrumental in sparking her connection to the Durham community. As a student, she embraced leadership and service opportunities, including joining Theta Pi Delta sorority, where she participated in impactful community service projects. One of Audrey's fondest memories is her time in the Southern Marching Band, especially when they collaborated with Hillside High's band to take on the Brooklyn Steppers in an unforgettable performance. Audrey also credits several dedicated teachers for shaping her success, particularly Mrs. Perrin, who supported her both academically and personally, leaving a lasting impact on her life. Audrey's advice to current DPS students is seize every moment, take every opportunity, and don't be afraid to step into leadership roles. Lastly, be kind. Kindness takes you a very long way. Congratulations to Audrey Hawkins, our January DPS Alum of the Month. We are so proud to honor her with a DPS Spark pin, along with a gift card and a basket of goodies from DPS Foundation, and also with our new DPS Made t-shirt made exclusively for our students and alums of the month. So, yes, you can learn more about Audrey on our website and visit bullcityschools.org/alumni to share your DPS story or nominate another outstanding alum. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations, Audrey. Thank you for being an example for Durham Public Schools in and around this community. Please stand and take a photo with Superintendent Lewis and be acknowledged by our board members. Please welcome Michelle Hayes, Executive Director of Talent Acquisition and Employee Recognition, for our next acknowledgements. Ms. Hayes.
Good evening. I'm Chairman Rogers, members of the board, Superintendent Lewis, and cabinet members. As always, I always look forward to doing the celebrations every single month. Today is the day we celebrate our Teacher of the Month and Employee of the Month. Every month, a teacher and an employee, the non-teacher, is nominated for Teacher and Employee of the Month. These individuals exemplify greatness, tenacity, perseverance, and leadership, and they are nominated based off of the theme of the month. This is a great way to celebrate our employees. They feel honored when they are recognized for their hard work. This evening, we're going to recognize our December Employee of the Month and our January Teacher and Employee of the Month. Our Teacher of the Month is sponsored by North Carolina Central University's tennis program, the Tall Side chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and DCL Consulting LLC. And our Employee of the Month is sponsored by the Office of Human Resources. For our December Employee of the Month, the theme was inclusivity. This is the individual who ensures everyone feels welcomed, valued, and respected, no matter who they are or where they're from. Imagine your school or department where everyone is invited and treated fairly, regardless of their background, race, gender, or beliefs. Our December Employee of the Month is Norlie Gudina, Community Liaison from Lakewood Montessori Middle School. If she can come on up. Principal Jones stated that Norley Godina, community liaison, simply, our school is not as successful without the work of you. Her work with our Spanish-speaking families has helped to break down communication barriers and increase student achievement. The first thing one notices about Ms. Godina is the generosity of her spirit, always interacting with students and families with kindness and compassion. Ms. Godina is also incredibly competent and professional, organized, forward-thinking, and understands that our ultimate goal is to see students succeed at not only belonging, but also in learning. Her work is setting up family nights, working with families to navigate Power School, following up with families when performance drops, and celebrating student success is instrumental to the work we do with our ELL families and our school. During the last 3.5 years, you have established yourself as one of the most beloved and impactful staff members due to your kindness and professionalism. Congratulations for being December Employee of the Month. Get a plaque. It's a plaque and a bag of goodies along with a Spark pen. For our January Teacher and Employee of the Month, the theme is perseverance. This is the individual with continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. This could be a physical or academic challenge. Our January Teacher of the Month is Megan Lewis, fifth grade teacher at Lyons Farm Elementary School. If you can come up. Megan Lewis, fifth grade teacher, is simply the best. Her contributions to both our school and her classroom make her invaluable asset to our school's community. Principal Hopkins said she is the chair of the most efficient school improvement team he's ever worked with or on. Her organization, forward-thinking, mindset, and inclusive approach have been critical over the past 2 years since our school opened. You have led our school and community to embody the essence of teamwork, fostering an environment focused on continuous improvement. In your classroom, you breathe life into your instruction. She is meticulous about crafting individual academic success plans for each student, ensuring that every learner receives the personalized support they need to thrive. Your influence extends beyond the classroom, as I have invited her to join our instructional leadership team. So Principal Hopkins has invited you to come on the leadership team. Her deep thinking about instruction, coupled with her ability to refine and enhance delivery processes, makes her an invaluable thought partner for our entire staff. Ms. Lewis embodies the values we strive for as educators: collaboration, innovation, and an unrelenting commitment to student success. You are a natural leader, trusted colleague, and a champion for your students. Simply put, Ms. Lewis is the best. Congratulations for Ms. Lewis for being named Durham Public Schools January Teacher of the Month, and Coach Lawson from North Carolina Central, surprised as well, so he wants to make some comments.
Good evening, everyone. Long time no see. So yesterday, North Carolina Central University's our team captain and coaching staff had an opportunity to come over to Lions Farm School and present Miss Lewis with a surprise, some more flowers and balloons, and would like to thank Principal Hopkins for recognizing Miss Lewis' exceptional talent. And on behalf of DCL Consultant LLC, we'd also like to give you a small token again, just in recognition of your excellence. Congratulations.
You also receive a bag of goodies and a Spark pen.
Okay, thank you so much.
And our January Employee of the Month is Rhonda Sinkfield, our beginning teacher mentor. If she can come up. Our new teachers really need our full release mentors, so we truly appreciate you. So Rhonda consistently goes beyond in her role as a mentor to beginning teachers in our district. You demonstrate an unwavering dedication, always striving to help others succeed, even when faced with challenges or setbacks. Despite difficulties, failures, or any opposition, you never give up. Your resilience and commitment to growth of our new educators make you an invaluable asset to the DPS mentor team. Your guidance, support, and expertise have helped many teachers overcome obstacles and develop into confident, capable educators. We are incredibly lucky to have someone like you on the team, and your tireless efforts deserve to be recognized. So congratulations to Rhonda Sinkfield for being named Durham Public Schools January Employee of the Month. It's a a plaque and a bag of goodies. Hold this while you take your picture. Yeah. Thank you.
This concludes our celebrations this evening. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the superintendent's update. Dr. Lewis?
Just board, oh, thank you. That wasn't even on. Good evening, Board Chair Rogers, board members, DPS community. I will tell you, those celebrations were really good to see and hear. There has been a lot going on just this past week, and so I want to start my comments off addressing our parents, families, and our staff. Just in a matter of weeks, well, no, not an S on week, 1 week, actually 6 working days. A lot has come down from the federal government, and we are constantly looking at how it impacts us as a school system. And we know that the most recent changes to our federal immigration law has caused angst and fear. And I want everyone in this community to know that our aim is to bring assurances and accurate information as we have conferred and continue to confer with our in-house counsel and learn how these changes in this law will affect our district, our students, and our families and our staff. We will also continue to review our protocols and safety measures with our leadership and staff as we take our time and perform due diligence. And as always, Durham Public Schools will continue to provide every student, regardless of background, regardless of immigration status, with a quality education in an inclusive, welcoming, and supportive environment. This is the right of each and every DPS scholar in our schools. We also maintain and follow school safety protocols, district policies, as well as state and federal laws that protect the rights, safety, and dignity of each scholar. Just today, we met with our principals and shared guidance with them. We sent out some information to our families that also included some resources as well. As we continue to learn more, we will continue to pass along information. But please know that we are talking about this every day and ensuring that we have the appropriate protocols in place at the school level and throughout this district to continue to protect all of our students and staff. We would also like to thank our media partners for sharing with their readers and their viewers our financial details that we offered last week about our current and upcoming budget. My thanks to our CFO, Jeremy Teeter, for his proactivity, and not only him, but his budget team as well. We have been able to pinpoint critical moves that are needed in order to attain solvency and to develop a budget that will serve all of our students exceedingly well. As Board Chair Rogers mentioned earlier, I too want to echo those sentiments and also take a moment to honor Hillside High School's graduate, Dr. Livonia Allison, such a mighty pillar of our community who served passionately as a social justice warrior. Many of you know she transitioned on January the 7th. She was known as an unapologetic advocate for African American scholars. And as the chairwoman of the Durham Committee of Affairs, Black People for 14 years in title, but what I hear is that she still pretty much ran the committee even after she was chairman. She showed up every month to give voice to the youth. She believed to whom we owed our best thinking and support. And as a community, we will miss her presence, but certainly her legacy lives on among us. And so I had an opportunity to attend her funeral and some other tributes. And although we didn't meet, I was telling Mr. Tabb, I only wish I was able to have a conversation with her. And I told some other folks that, and they said, "You sure you wanted to have a conversation with her?" But she was a mighty force, I understand, and we will continue to keep her legacy alive. Next slide. This year has brought with it winter weather. I was informed right before our most recent snow day that we hadn't had a snow day in over 1,000 days. It seemed like we made up for it, right? So while it is exciting to see snow, it is important to prioritize the safety of all of our students, families, and our staff. The decision to delay, whether we're delaying the start of the school or releasing early or close school, it's not taken lightly. These decisions are not made in isolation, as there are many factors that involve the influence and support of those decisions. Certainly, I'd like to thank all of our staff for working tirelessly last week to collaborate with our local emergency management partners. Many of our staff were out on the roads, seeing if the roads were safe for our buses. Keep in mind, we have a lot of rural roads in this community, and so your street may be clear, but some of our rural roads and areas around our schools may not be. So certainly appreciate everyone for their understanding in this last week. But the ultimate goal was to ensure that our schools and our facilities were safe and ready to welcome our staff and students. Next slide. The Educational Development Committee of the Durham Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority collected 281 coats and 190 hat, scarf, and glove sets to help support DPS students in staying warm during their commute to school. The coats will be delivered to DPS Student Services, which will coordinate with our school counselors, social workers, and principals from the 21 Family Responsibility Zone schools to arrange appointments for distribution of those coats for students that may need them. So again, thank you so much to the alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. Next slide. Congratulations to Burton IB Elementary for being named a top magnet school of excellence by Magnet Schools of America. Get this, only 24 schools in the nation are awarded this prestigious award, and we were one of those schools. In addition, 5 DPS magnet schools earned top honors, and our schools of excellence are Durham School of the Arts, Durham School of Technology, and George Watts Montessori, and our schools of distinction, City of Medicine Academy, Lakewood Montessori Middle. And so these awards celebrate innovative curricular, academic excellence, diversity, and strong community partnerships. Congratulations again to those schools, staff, and scholars alike. Next slide. Crayons to Calculators has joined the DPS Foundation family as one of its signature programs. This partnership solidifies a commitment to supporting teachers and students by providing essential school supplies. Our teachers will continue to enjoy one-stop shopping for classroom supplies at the Bacon Street warehouse. Every year, teachers spend on average about $263 out of their own pockets for school supplies. And so with that amount being much higher for those lower grade or early childhood educators, Crayons to Calculators addresses this by annually distributing more than $100,000 worth of school supplies. So congratulations to the Durham Public Schools Foundation and Crayons to Calculators, and thank you all so much for the support that you provide in supporting our educators and scholars. Next slide. Our scholars are shining examples of excellence inside and outside of the classroom. So congratulations are in order to Jordan High freshman Addie McDowell, who is the North Carolina High School Athletic Association 4A Women's Tennis Individual State Champion. Congratulations, Addie. Addie is the first DPS women's tennis player to win an individual state championship. So way to go, Addie. The last time that DPS claimed individual state honors in tennis, well before Addie was born, 1993. So congratulations, Addie, again. Next slide. Congratulations also to Sarah Walls, a dedicated humanities teacher at Lakewood Montessori Middle School, for her selection as the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, or DNCR, Learning Happens Here Teacher Ambassador. Sarah is among inaugural cohort of 18 outstanding K-12 educators from across the state that will collaborate with DNCR to promote experimental and place-based learning. This program connects classrooms with North Carolina's rich cultural, historical, and natural treasures. Reflecting on this exciting opportunity, Sarah shared, North Carolina has incredible historic sites, museums, and parks that have been long benefited my teaching. I'm thrilled to deepen my knowledge of our state through this program. As a teacher ambassador, Sarah will explore DNCR's sites, develop innovative resources for educators, and inspire students to build a deeper connection with our state's unique history, culture, and environment. Congratulations again to Ms. Sarah Walls, Lakeview Montessori. Next slide. As a reminder, DPS lottery applications are still open until this Friday, January 31st. Interested families may apply online for the programs including Montessori, Dual Language Immersion, International Baccalaureate, Year-Round Schools, Ignite Online Academy, DPS Specialty High Schools, and CTE Pathways. We hosted an application assistance event this past Saturday, January 25th from 9 to noon at the Minnie Fort Brown Staff Development Center for our families. Next slide. I know you all missed it. An Evening to Shine is back, and I'm excited for my first one. So join us on February the 11th at 7 p.m. at the DPAC to celebrate over 500 talented DPS student performers, showcasing their vocal, dance, and visual art skills. More than 300 students will be showcasing their talents. We want a full house. So you can purchase your tickets at shinedps.com. All the proceeds support the Durham Promise Scholarship Fund. Again, a special thanks to DPS Foundation for their support of this event. Next slide. Families received an email from me last Tuesday evening regarding our district's financial status, which is a priority in my post-entry plan. We'll share more this evening about the status and our upcoming budget process. Please know that we are keenly focused on our finances and leading with transparency throughout this process. You'll hear more soon as we launch our Dollars in Decision series, and the comprehensive post-entry plan will be released in the coming weeks. We will hear more about our district finances again tonight, but I want this community to know that we take this very serious and we are moving in the right direction. And certainly we are committed to responding to the feedback we heard. And with that, we are committed to accountability and transparency. Next slide. Last and certainly not least, January is School Board Appreciation Month. You can clap right there. DPS is certainly grateful for the dedication, leadership, commitment to ensuring our students receive the best possible education. I want to take a moment to recognize and honor the incredible leadership of our Durham Public Schools Board of Education. You know, serving on a school board is often a thankless job, but it is one that is seriously most critical to the success in terms of shaping our scholars' future. But not only our scholars, shaping our schools and the community's future as well. Each of you bring a unique perspective, a deep dedication, and unwavering commitment to ensuring that every student in our district has the opportunity to succeed. Your leadership and your vision guide our work, and your decisions reflect a steadfast focus on equity, innovation, and excellence for all. And so, on behalf of all of our scholars, staff, and families, thank you all so much for your service, your sacrifice, your time, sitting at the computer, responding to emails, or sending us questions and more questions and more questions, and holding us accountable. But most importantly, thank you for your belief and support of public education to transform lives. And so together, we are building a bright future for Durham. And let us continue to work as a team, united in our mission. And that's all I have. This concludes my remarks. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Colleagues, the next item on our agenda is agenda review and approval. I have shared with some. The DPS Foundation has asked to reschedule their presentation. So I would ask colleagues if we could honor that.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would move that we adopt the agenda as amended and remove item 2A, the DPS Foundation presentation.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Ms. Byer, seconded by Mr. Tab to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Okay, colleagues, I'm sorry, everybody. We have a colleague joining us virtually, Miss Emily Chavez. So we'll do a roll call vote tonight because of our rescheduled meeting. And Ms. Umstead had a previous engagement and could not be here. So there are 6 of us tonight. So Ms. Chavez, how do you vote on the agenda?
This is Emily Chavez, and I vote aye.
Mr. Tabb,
Aye.
Ms. Carter Otten,
Aye.
Ms. Byer,
Aye.
and Ms. Harold Goff.
Aye.
And I vote aye. The amended agenda passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is the board regular monthly meeting minutes from December 19th, 2024, which board members have had an opportunity to review prior to now.
I move approval of the monthly meeting minutes from December 19th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Chavez, seconded by Ms. Byer to approve the the meeting minutes from December 19th, 2024. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Chavez,
This is Emily Chavez, and I vote aye.
Mr. Tabb,
Aye.
Ms. Carter Otten,
Aye.
Ms. Byer,
Aye.
Ms. Harold Goff,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The minutes from December 19th have been passed unanimously. The next item on our agenda is general public comment. We have quite a few folks signed up to speak tonight. So I'll do a quick review of the rules. First, please state your name. If speaking for an organization, please state your name and the name of the organization. Second, speakers are asked to present their comments in 1 minute. When the yellow light comes on, you will have 30 seconds left to start winding up your remarks. When the red light comes on, it will beep, which indicates your time is up. Complaints about named staff, students, or parents should not be voiced in open session. However, We are very interested in hearing your concerns with regard to public education, safety of students, or to the operation of the school system. Finally, board members will listen carefully and consider your comments, but we do not engage in a discussion with speakers. Our first speaker tonight is Giovanna Areli Oana Oborgan. I apologize. I'm going to mess up names tonight, but thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Giovanna. I am 17 years old, and I am a proud student of DPS. I'm here tonight, not as a student, but as a voice for my peers, my family, and my community. Our schools are a place where we come to learn and to grow and to dream of bright futures, a place where we feel safe, supported, and valued. But how can we truly feel safe when there's a threat of ICE entering our schools looming over us? Imagine being a student, just like me, trying to focus on a math problem or history lesson while constantly worrying that your family might not be there when you get home. Imagine the fear of watching classmates or friends disappear, their seats left empty, their futures uncertain. This isn't just about politics or policies. It's about people, about the children and families who deserve a chance to live and learn and thrive without fear. Our schools should be sanctuaries, of our safety and opportunities, not just a place.
Thank you. Can you email it to us?
Mhm.
BOE@dpsnc.net.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Yesenia Gonzalez.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Yesenia Carlón. Represento a los padres de la comunidad de Durham. Nosotros tenemos una preocupación muy grande por nuestros hijos, ahora con la nueva administración que hay en esta nación. Yo les exhorto a ustedes que nos apoyen en cuestión de la seguridad de nuestros hijos, en apoyo en podernos recurrir a nosotros también a que no entreguen a nuestros hijos los que no tienen un estatus legal en este país, que están en las escuelas. Les pido por favor que tengan extremada precaución en entregar a cualquier persona a los niños, que tengan una manera de un formato en el cual nosotros tengamos firmado a las personas que se tienen que entregar a nuestros hijos. También tener muy en cuenta que la escuela, la educación de nuestros hijos es muy importante para ustedes porque eso es el futuro de nuestra comunidad. Entonces les exhorto por favor a que nos ayuden a mantener a nuestros hijos seguros, a los padres y a las escuelas, que no dejen entrar a cualquier persona a llevarse a nuestros hijos, sino tener un reglamento, una manera de poder nosotros estar tranquilos por la seguridad de nuestros hijos, por la seguridad de ustedes también y de nuestras escuelas y nuestra comunidad.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yesenia Cardona. I am here representing the PS parents. I want to say that lately we have been having this new administration, and what I'm asking is for you to help us, for us to have assured that our children are going to be in safety. We want your support helping us to not give our children away for people that is not registered in the school. We do not have people. We do not want people that we haven't signed in the school to be taking our students. So I'm asking for us to have some sort of form in which we can authorize people that can take our children from school. I think education is important because, as we know, the children are our future. And I am exhorting you right now to assure the safety of our students, of our parents, and of everybody in the community because we want to keep our children safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne Alamonte, Chad Heffley, Lindsay Marjoram.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ivan Almonte from Respuesta Rápida de Durham. Almost 9 years ago, on February 11, 2016, DPS passed a resolution to ask ICE to stop detaining students. A good example, it was Weldon Acosta, right? I was leading the whole movement in Durham along with other community members. So I've been receiving messages from the community members and parents. You don't see them here because they're afraid to come and show up publicly, right? So parents are asking DPS to make a public statement on how you will protect the privacy and safety of students to prevent students from being detained in the school's campus by ICE agents. Also, they're asking on what type of resources Durham Public Schools will provide to students in case of an ICE raid. And the last one, they're asking if DPS board they're requesting a meeting with you guys just to show the concerns and how we can work together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thad Heffley, Lindsay Maharjan, Heidi Perez.
Hi, my name's Chad Hafley, and I'm here as parent of students at Hope Valley and Rogers Her. Last time at the last meeting, I criticized your recent changes to transportation policy. I then heard at least 4 of you express misgivings and regret about implementing family responsibility zones. But you all talked at each other with statements with no conversation and no debate. When you heard that related attendance stats would be hard to gather, you gave up on asking for them. You let the zones go into effect without providing the time or resources for schools and families to adapt. Meanwhile, you're moving to express bus service for magnet middle schools. Their lottery closes on Friday with no info about schedules or stop locations that family need to make decisions now. Hearing a majority say you're uncomfortable with some of these changes and proceeding without discussion is beyond frustrating. But you can still provide more resources for family responsibility zones, and you don't have to implement express service. It remains a permanent solution to a temporary driver shortage. It decreases equity and access to magnet schools, throwing away the gains from growing together. You shouldn't pursue express stops just because other districts do them too. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lindsay Marjoram, and I'm the parent of a Hope Valley Elementary student within the Family Responsibility Zone. We understand that hiring bus drivers has not been trivial and that this was an untenable situation for the school board. Implementation of responsibility zones works only if appropriate infrastructure is in place. At Hope Valley, students of color and lower socioeconomic status are disproportionately shouldering the burden of this decision. There are 4 lanes of traffic on University and 3 lanes of traffic on Dixon. At the time when kids are walking to school, there are cars waiting to turn into the school parking lot for carpool, cars entering and leaving Primary Colors Daycare, and morning commuters that are frequently driving on the wrong side of the road to avoid the traffic. A crossing guard isn't a nice to have, it's a requirement. Parents have also had the rug pulled out from under them mid-year and are grappling with how to get their kids into school much later than they're used to, which impacts them getting to work on time. We're asking that you hire a crossing guard permanently for that intersection, install extra signage, and expand care. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Perez, Kim Gugino, Rachel Niebring.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Lewis, parents, community members, and staff. I'm Heidi Perez, a DPS parent, employee, and a Durham resident. I'd like to begin by inviting you to think back to your memories of your school library when you were a kid. I bet some of you can remember the name of your school librarian. Miss Proper was my school librarian. She had long leather-wrapped black braids, just like my mother. She was a librarian. She was not a technology champion. She was a reading champion. She was not a reading interventionist. She was a reader interventionist. Who was your reader champion? I bet you can remember their name. When we fully fund DPS libraries and protect the role of our DPS media coordinators as teacher librarians, we give our students the opportunity to have the same library joy we all know, the same reading support we benefited from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the school board, Superintendent Dr. Lewis, and DPS community members. My name is Kim Gugino. This is Jenny Umbarger, and we are co-library media coordinators at Durham School of the Arts. We are here this evening to share how media coordinators who receive full budgets as approved by the school board and who are able to maintain a flexible schedule can focus their time and energy to bring literacy and book joy while positively impacting the academic success of all students in DPS. At Durham School of the Arts, we are fully supported financially with DPS allocated funds and with the time necessary to do our jobs. So in addition to managing a collection of almost 17,000 items and aligning our collection to the curriculum, supporting diversity through our programming and books, we are also able to run literacy programs such as collaborating with Latinx Kid Lit Book Festival and handing out over 900 books through programs through our Dia de los Muertos festival and our Yola Boca Float events in the winter. This year, we've also, in addition, we also are able to collaborate with teachers and core content elective teachers with their curriculum. It's only possible because of our full access to funds and time to do our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to email us the
Thank you.
Rachel Nabring, Paula Januzzi Godfrey, Kathleen Graves, Jenna Wine, JB Hallen.
Hi, I'm Rachel Nearing, and I'm ceding my time for Paula.
Okay. My name is Paula Januzzi Godfrey. I'm the media coordinator at Glenn Elementary School. This is my 41st year as an educator, with over 20 of those as a teacher, instructional coach, full release mentor, and most recently media coordinator for DPS. I love my job. I love that I can be part of laying the foundation for children in elementary school to develop a love of reading and learning. I love that I can mentor young teachers and hopefully help them find joy in their work, which includes understanding the importance of reading to and with children. I am fortunate enough to be in a school where I am respected as a full-time teacher librarian, and my budget is fully protected by my principal. I spend the majority of my contracted hours teaching, however. I am able to touch the lives of every child in our school. Every child in our school reaps the benefits of having a full-time, highly qualified librarian and an incredible library in our school. I'm here this evening to remind you about the joy that school libraries provide for students, staff, and the entire community. During this difficult time in our history in our country, if you could use some joy in your life, any of you, I encourage you to come and hang out with me in the library at Glenn. You don't have to talk to me at all. You can just sit and take it all in. If you came this week, you would join first graders choosing stuffed animals from the Glenn Animal Rescue Project. Or you could sit with a 4th or 5th grade class as they work with a visiting local architect to create structures with Legos, which in turn become AI renditions of their creations. You could join me with 3rd grade, learning about Black history landmarks and people in Durham. Come back with us in April to take a walking scavenger hunt tour of Durham to find those landmarks. Come in with 5th grade and you're going to learn about Black-owned dessert businesses in Durham. And I could go on and on, but I don't have time. So, media coordinators in DPS represent the best of DPS. The joy will continue because that's what librarians do. We teach, we support, we advocate, and we bring joy to our school community. I do have old-fashioned hard copies for you, and I'll email
Thank you. You can leave them with our clerk, Ms. Smith. Thank you. Kathleen Graves, JB Hallen, Sonia Lopez.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Lewis, members of the school board, and community. I've proudly taught in Durham Public Schools for many years, teaching alongside Mr. Tabb, teaching Ms. Byers' children, and teaching Madam Rogers' chair. The Media Center is the heart of the school. It's a safe space for all students. Media lead teachers, myself, and coordinated and collaborated with Durham County Library to create the SLAM program years ago, which greatly expanded student and staff access to many valuable print and digital resources, including books, databases, and digital materials. This week at my school, on Ignite, we will have Durham County Library STEAM Lab come to my school for hands-on coding, circuitry, cardboard construction. We have many other opportunities. In short, it happens because the budget is supported. Keep the heart of the school beating strong. And I'll send you the full thing.
Thank you. Thank you. We look forward to reading it. Jenna Wine, JB Hallen, Sonia Lopez.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Jenna Wine. I'm a media coordinator at Riverside High School. And did you know over 30,000 young adult books are published a year? And within those books, our students have been eager to get their hands on these. One Piece is a huge hit on Netflix, and our kids are super obsessed with getting the newest volume. Manga is our biggest circulating series and just like section in the library. So we keep it well stocked. Sunrise of the Reaping is the newest Hunger Games novel. Who'd have thought that Hunger Games was still strong? That was from when I was in middle school. And so we just want to keep these books as well stocked as a diverse collection that you cannot have without a fully functioning librarian. And at the library and at the Riverside High School, we have 1,900 students. And last year, 11,000 student visits to the library every year, checking out over 6,000 books, attending over 455 events and classes. Our library is the true hub of the school, like they've all said. And so please fund us. Please keep funding us. That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. JB Hallen, Sonia Lopez, Jean Coliff.
68 days. It has been 68 days since Dr. Lewis said we will deliver when talking about master's pay for school social workers and other support staff. It has been 68 days since Dr. Lewis said he only needed 4 more days to find a solution. By continuing to deny school social workers master pay and other support staff, you are telling us and the public that you do not care about the school social work profession. You are sending a clear message that you do not value our work, nor do you care about the marginalized students and families that we work with and serve every single day. My colleagues and I are angry, but we still believe that you have the ability to right this wrong. Social workers are going to keep fighting for master's pay until this is passed for this school year with retro pay that our employees deserve. Until you ensure that social workers are paid fairly, I will continue to tell the public that the Board of Education and DPS leadership does not care about school social workers. Stop the disrespect of social work profession and pay social workers the same as classroom-based teachers.
Thank you. Sonia Lopez, John Califf, Angelo Ebron.
My name is Sonia Lopez. This is my 5th year as a DPS school social worker. Last spring, after a union-led campaign with thousands of supporters, this board publicly committed to reinstating master's pay for those impacted by the state's 2013 decision. Nearly a year later, those you left out are still here asking for what was promised them. Dr. Lewis, in November, when the board was ready to correct this mistake, you stopped the vote asking for 4 more days. You promised to deliver master's pay. That didn't happen. Do you have any idea how demoralizing it was to hear you insist you didn't know where to find less than $200,000, only to see you post the next week a new assistant superintendent position with a starting salary of $155,000? The money was there and you knew it. Ms. Beyer, you said giving us master's pay would take from others, seemingly shaming us for asking what was promised us. At one of the following board meetings, I watched catering carts roll into this building. Who did that take from? DPS continues to pledge to spend more than the cost of fully reinstating master's pay on other priorities.
Hi, my name is Jean Lelif. I'm going to finish my wife's. So in addition to the new leadership position, last week it was revealed that over $500,000 is needed for art position supplements that weren't in the spring budget where master's pay was promised. Let me be clear, I'm not here to divide workers. They deserve supplements, just as all DPS workers do. But the lack of transparency and the choice to break promises that affected our families and career decisions to fund other priorities sends a clear message. You are choosing to devalue us, to divide us, and to not honor worker voices. This is not equity or fiscal responsibility. This isn't just mismanagement. It is harm to our workers, our students, and the communities you claim to champion. On a personal note, my wife loves her students, she loves her coworkers, she loves this community, but she has never felt so disrespected. After 5 years, she feels it is very clear that she no longer has a future in this district. Dr. Lewis, respectfully, it is time to pass a real meet and confer policy.
Angela Ebron, Sharita Gillespie, Christy Clem.
I'm Angela Ebron, and I cede my time to Sharita Gillespie.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Sharita Gillespie, and I'm a school social worker at Northern High School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm here to discuss an issue that is of great concern, not only to me, but to many of my colleagues, the master pay for school social workers and instructional support staff. I came to DPS in 2022 with a master's. When I was fighting for my master's pay, I was working 3 jobs to provide for my family. During the summer months, I struggled because I simply couldn't afford to save through this school year. The financial burden was a direct result of not receiving the master's pay. Now that I'm fortunate enough to receive the compensation, I've been able to reduce my workload to 2 jobs. But I'm here today to fight with my colleagues who are still waiting for the same recognition and support. It feels like a slap in the face to see the creation of another executive position where the salary for that one role is equivalent to what could be provided for master's pay for 30 of my deserving colleagues. These dedicated professionals have worked incredibly hard to earn their degrees and licenses, yet they are still not being compensated for their commitment to our students and their professional growth. Many of my colleagues like me work multiple jobs to make ends meet. The addition of master's pay would provide real relief and make a difference in their lives and the lives of their families. Our work is not just important, it's essential. We support the emotional, social, and mental well-being of thousands of families across this district. But where is the support for us? It saddens me that the district I am proud to work for seems more willing to invest in the creation of new executive position than in retaining and valuing nearly 30 of their dedicated employees. If you truly care about the well-being of our students and families, we must first take care of the people who are on the front lines, those who support them every single day. I ask you to consider this message we are sending to those who dedicate their lives to our children in the district. We need to show that we value our staff, that we honor their hard work, and that we are willing to invest in their future. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Oop, thank you. Christy Clem, Sydney Shilnick.
I'm Christy Clem, physical therapist, classified employee, member of DAE. I'm going to cede what I have left to Sydney, but classified want to know, how was the 8.8 million spent? I know in the presentation it said it was all spent correctly. I was told by board member and folks in finance and individual conversations that that money was used to pay for the 11% raise we got last year, because that 11% was too much. Was that the mandated 3% raise? So many classified folks I talked to got nothing more than the 3%, and the newest salary schedules that we look at are compressed more than they ever were before any of this stuff started last year. And Dr. Lewis, you have said you want every employee to get a raise every year they're here. Like I mentioned last board meeting, I'm frozen for 12 more years until I hit step 30. Is there any way legacy pay will go away? Now that I'm being paid more, since I was paid more last year than the new scales, it says the new scale number plus legacy. Not do you want to take it away? Is there any way it could go away?
Hey y'all, I'm Sydney Childnick, school social worker at Parkwood Elementary. I'm here tonight again because to stay home would be to let y'all win. Colleagues of ours have second jobs and children that keep them from being here tonight, so I'm here for them. You can keep telling us that you don't have the money to fund our master's pay. As news emerged about how wide the gap is in the DPS budget, we understand the feeling of scarcity. What we don't understand is how y'all can tell us our pay is not possible this year while simultaneously listing an opening for an assistant superintendent position salaried at roughly the amount it would cost to pay us excluded master's level social workers. We do not understand how we are the positions that are simply not fundable. We're not asking to take away from anyone. Every DPS employee deserves fair pay for their work. What we cannot and will not accept is that people in power, you, continue to disrespect and take advantage of the social work profession, and most importantly, the students and families we serve. Y'all remember that before we made lunch universally free, 46.6% of our student body met eligibility for free and reduced lunch, that about 4% of our students last year were unhoused, and that number's rising. You may take us for granted, but you'll miss us when we're gone, and I'm curious who you think will fill our place.
Thank you. Charles Cepel, Alexandra Valladares, Rebecca McDonald, Amanda Baker, Victoria Peterson.
My name is Charles Pate. I'm going to succeed my time to Alexander, please.
Good evening, board members. I'm here today as a concerned member of this community, my community. DPS is my alma mater, NCCU. But I just wanted to talk about the uncertain times we're living in. Families are really scared. We know this. We also know, I'm going to shout out Eleftheria, one of our teachers, who said Aristotle said, man is a political animal. Man is a political animal. And so I'm looking to you. The bat is in your hand. Man is a political animal, so we have to use politics. We have to use, I know how each of you works. I know the strength that you all have. I've heard you all speak. We have to use the loopholes. We have to use whatever we need to use to protect our kids. Right there, it says the mission, Durham Public Schools embraces, educates, and empowers every student to innovate, serve, and lead. And we will not be able to do that if we are not very intentional about how we are protecting our kids. I was an undocumented student. Everybody knows this. I've shared this publicly. I was deprived of field trips. I was deprived of a lot of things. My family was scared. By the grace of God, I'm no longer an undocumented student. I stand here as somebody who was the first Latina on the board for a reason, because you have to see the families. You have to look at me as a child. I got to participate in an IB program as an undocumented student. I need due process. We worked 2018. Some of you remember, we were flooding the entire third floor. We want a due process, which means simply a warrant. A warrant before anybody gets to our kids, before anybody starts asking about Juan, Pedrito, Isabelita. No, they are our kids. A warrant, due process, that policy some of you worked on, many of us were on the other side advocating for that. It needs to be in the language in a statement. Thank you all so much. I think I'm next for the next one.
Thank you. Rebecca McDonald, Amanda Baker, Victoria Peterson.
Hi, my name is Rebecca McDonald, and I'm ceding my time to Amanda Baker.
Hi, I'm Amanda Baker. I'm a parent of 2 Creekside Elementary students, a DPS graduate myself, and I've cut this down a little bit due to time, so it's not as eloquent as it first was. But I first want to ask the board to address the CEP metric, which we use for Title I funding. I urge you to consider expanding how we define eligibility for Title I funding by using a combination of federal and local data rather than relying solely on the federal data alone. The current metric excludes a significant portion of students, especially our undocumented children, who may not be counted in the federal data, but still come from families who are struggling financially. By using local data in addition to federal metrics, we could ensure that more students receive the support and resources they need and that no child is overlooked because of gaps in federal reporting. Second, I want to acknowledge that DPS does have some flexibility in how we allocate local resources. As you know, we are fortunate to live in a community that recognizes the value of investing in our children. However, I believe that we need to be more intentional with how we use local funds, particularly when it comes to staffing our schools with the essential roles that make a direct difference in students' lives. We know in many cases DPS does not meet industry standards for the number of counselors, social workers, and other non-classroom professionals and interventionists that we need to support our children. As the district continues to grow, the needs for these positions becomes more urgent. It is not enough just to focus on the classroom teachers, who, might I add, are doing the very best they can trying to wear multiple hats. We must recognize the importance of a comprehensive approach to education that includes emotional and social support for our children. My hope is, even with the current budget shortfalls, that cuts not be made from the schools. I want to make it clear this is not just a nice to have or an extra, it's an essential part of providing our children with a high quality of education. In closing, I would like to thank you for your continued work and commitment to Durham Public Schools. I want to emphasize that Creekside will continue this conversation at each meeting in the coming months. We appreciate your support.
Thank you. Ms. Victoria Peterson.
I would like to say good evening to Chairwoman Rogers and to Dr. Lewis and to all of the board members. I'm here because I have really, I have two concerns. I heard on the news the other day, and I do not want to say anything wrong here because I know this is going out in the public airways, that about $34 million is missing from the school budget, that you have a shortfall. I'm asking that the school quickly hire and do an audit on your finances and on your monies. Chairwoman Rogers, that's very disturbing if that is true, that monies you can't find. That is not good. The other reason why I'm here, some of you may know, I'm a new mom. My husband and I, we have a new addition to our family. I'm very concerned about your preschool, your toddler school program. I would like to get more information about that program. It should not take months for a 3-year-old to be assigned to come into your school system. And I've been working and working trying to get our son, because he has some issues, into your toddlers program. But please, please, see what has happened to these monies.
Thank you.
Okay? And thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone from administration will collect your contact information to connect about the pre-K situation. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good
Good
evening to the
evening.
Superintendent, Dr. Lewis, and to our school board officials. I am Dr. Monique Hosley, former city council member, but I'm here tonight as your new elected chair for the Education and Youth Committee for the Durham Committee Affairs of Black People. And I wanted to let you know, and my vice chair is Frederick Davis, who is a former colleague, and my student here is one of our first interns. I teach in the master's program at Central, so this is Ms. Anderson. But I wanted to say tonight that I'm excited to be in this position, and I really want us to work in collaboration with the committee. And I emphasize in collaboration. I want us to move forward the agenda of making sure that all children, all youth in Durham are getting a positive, successful education. I'm a passionate social worker, I'm a passionate educator, and again, I want to say, in collaboration, you've got somebody that's willing to work in collaboration with all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes general public comment. Colleagues, the next item on our agenda is Academic Services Strategic Plan Priority 3 Update.
Good afternoon, board members. I should say good evening. We are excited tonight to present, finally, to the board after all the delays, strategic plan priority number 3. Tonight, our new Director of Human Resources, actually Chief of Human Resources, Assistant Superintendent. I went through all of them. I want to make sure to get it right. Will be leading their presentation. It's my pleasure to invite her to the podium, Ms. Kim Hager.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Lewis, like Dr. King said, finally, we're here. All right. I am joined this evening by my colleague, Michelle Hayes, and we are presenting the Strategic Plan Priority 3 update. So tonight, we will provide an update on the Strategic Plan Priority 3 to recruit, support, and retain exemplary staff. Next slide. We can go on to the next slide. Our 5-year strategic plan represents a blueprint for planning, managing, and leading our journey to excellence. The goals and the plan are shaped by our core beliefs, exemplify our priorities, and commit to positive outcomes for each and every student. Each goal encompasses strategies that drive the daily efforts of our district. This strategic plan serves as a blueprint for Durham Public Schools. This strategic plan will direct resources, provide clarity, and align for community to the task of empowering our students to take charge of their future. Next slide. Next, we will discuss each of our goals and provide a snapshot of what's in place, what's in progress, and our next steps with my colleague, Michelle Hayes, who will present goals 3A and 3B.
Good evening again. I'm going to highlight 2 areas from each part of the in place, in progress, and next steps. From priority goal 3A for the recruit, support, retain, exemplary staff. And I would like to acknowledge my team and thank those members who are not here this evening. Robin Brooks, Dr. Kimberly Farrell, Darnice Massey, Dr. Annetta Cagle, Jill Harris, and Laura Sodavia. Okay. By 2028, DPS will reduce the turnover rate of all DPS employees by 5%, with a focus on teachers, instructional assistants, and drivers and bus drivers. While we don't have the turnover rate for the 24-25 year, the turnover rate from the 23-23 school year was at 21%. Looking at our slide, I would like to highlight a few areas under each section. Next slide. The in place. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, yes. Last year, we awarded 2 students with our Bull City Teaching Scholarship, Hillside High School student and a Durham School of Technology student. So I'm going to highlight 2 areas from under the in place. Just so you know a little something about Bull City Teaching Scholarship, they had to be a DPS graduate, an aspiring educator, 2.7 GPA, will attend Durham Technical Community College to North Carolina Central for 4 years, or NCCU for a total of 4 years. And they must teach in DPS for 4 years once they graduate. Another area that we will highlight that's in place is our teacher assistant to teacher program at North Carolina Central University, better known as TA to TP. Currently, an elementary school teacher, social studies teacher, and PE teacher have completed the programs on our teaching DPS. We had 3 teachers graduating December of 2024. One is at Eastway, one is at Githens as an EC teacher, and we had another teacher who's waiting to start teaching in the fall under the EC adapted curriculum. We have 3 graduated in May of 2025, all of elementary. We have 3 graduating December of 2025, and the remaining will graduate at a later date. The 6th cohort will start January of 2025. We've accepted 2 students. One is the EC, one will go into the EC graduate program, and the other one will follow the elementary route. So we'll have a total of 16 in the program once the 3 have graduated in December. We would like to thank our county commissioners and our Board of Education for being able to increase our compensation by $16 million from the 23 to 24-25 school year from various raises, increases, bonuses, and raises. So for in progress, we're going to highlight 2 areas. Licensure, ensuring every teacher are certified, averaging millions of dollars annually with a maximum of $7 million. We have reduced our audit exceptions to $41,000 currently and are working to reduce that amount as well. Great news, teachers were moved to subpay who did not have credentials, went from 358 teachers to under 20 teachers. Once they satisfied their licensing credentials, their teacher pay was reinstated. More students are passing the praxis, meaning more teachers are passing the praxis once they finish college, creating a dual increase in accountability. So when I spoke to the representative from North Carolina Central, she has more students passing the praxis, which of course creates that licensure pathway. HR engagement and wraparound meetings. C&I takes the lead and HR collaborates with all departments to address the needs of our schools. And under next steps, the two highlighted areas. Working in partnership with Transportation and Office of Public Affairs, we're implementing more strategies to recruit and retain drivers. And regarding the recruitment, reconnecting with NC Works. Pop-up events, we're working on Park the Bus Mobile Application Center. We have a free subscription, of course, with Indeed. OPA will use Facebook ads targeting certain audiences. We've had Radio Triangle Traffic Network and LALE. Regular information sessions from Transportation. Connecting with college students, so we're making that reconnection with North Carolina Central University and Durham Technical Community College. And connecting with graduating high school seniors. So at the end of the school year, working with the high school seniors to see who's interested in becoming a bus driver. We have a targeted career fair on February the 12th at the Minnie Fort Brown Staff Development Center from 5 until 6:30. And we have shared that information via streaming ads on Facebook, DPS website, El Centro, NC Works, DPS Housing Authority, Durham Technical Community College, North Carolina Central University, and we will also do email blast on ApplicChat for those who have applied for those particular positions. HR will continue to collaborate with Transportation and OPA to strive to have innovative strategies to recruit and retain. With retention, working conditions and respect, incentives, professional development, restorative practices, employee voices and listening sessions, facilities upgrades, employee recognition, driver appreciation, and disciplinary process support. All right, so the next priority 3, goal 3B, recruit, support, and retain exemplary staff. Okay. And once again, I would like to acknowledge team members who are not here: Matthew Palmer, Victor Hernaldo, Paul Majumbi, Maria, I never can pronounce her name correctly, Maria Bushgain, thank you. Corey Bamberg, Clifton Williams, and Terry Phillips. Okay. By 2028, DPS will increase the fill rate of DPS positions by at least 5%, with the focus on hard-to-staff instructional and classified position. 23-24, we were at 93.1%, and first quarter, we were at 24.25%. We were at 93, at 24-25, we were at 93.94%. So if we look at the in place, the highlighted areas, manager and training program with school nutrition. 22-23, 7 school nutrition assistants completed the training classes and service rotations, and 6 were promoted to managers. 23-24, 7 school nutrition assistants were promoted to cafeteria managers for the 24-25 school year after completing the manager and training program. And with transportation recruitment referral attendance bonus, we do have the attendance bonus for perfect attendance. In progress, DPS Transportation providing behind-the-wheel training for commercial driver's license, MOU with the North Carolina Department of Vehicles. We have 2 transportation specialists for recruitment, training, and compliance, RTC. And RTC working with North Carolina DMV trainers to develop curriculum and on-site training, which can increase, the number of candidates who will be credentialed in a given month. And then we have our Educator Preparation Program Fair, which is our Options for Alternative Pathway, which is what we know as EEP, Educator Preparatory Program. I would like to thank the Board of Education for approving the partnership with CCTI, which is one of our partners for EPP, Central Carolina Teaching Initiatives. And the last part of the next steps, the comprehensive plan why employees choose to leave or stay. We're reviewing our existing partnership with Hanover Research to maximize opportunities to get employee feedback through more consistent mechanisms such as exit and stay interviews. So we're working with Hanover Research to create a more consistent with the exit and stay interviews. And we will continue with the manager and training program through school nutrition, and they're working on a new cohort for the 25-26 school year. Thank you for your time, and I would like to turn it back over to Ms. Hager.
Next slide, please. This year has been a year like no other, but we are pleased to celebrate some gains with recruiting, supporting, and retaining our exemplary staff. By 2028, the percentage of DPS educators and staff who identify as Hispanic or Black will increase by at least 5%. So goal team members here, Dr. Kimberly Farrell, Keandra Robinson, Victor Geraldo, Joez Rebollo, Dr. Jose Cardoza, Princesa Santiago, and Pablo Friedman. And we will be making some adjustments with that, with me coming into this new role and looking at who our primary goal leads are going to be. So with that, while this year has been a year like no other, we did meet our overall goal in 2023-24. We did see an increase in our number of Hispanic hires, ending the year with 7.6 of our staff identified as Hispanic, and at the end of the first quarter, that number has already increased to 9%. And while we did not meet our goal last year for increasing the number of staff who identify as Black, coming in at 53.6%, at the end of the first quarter this year, that number has already increased to 54.3%. Our work is moving us in the right direction, so stay tuned, we're on our way. Next, what strategies are we using to ensure that we're on track so that our students have folks that look like us in the classroom? Next slide. Some of the strategies for the goal that are currently in place include our Latinx Professional Learning Network, which has been in place over the past several years. In progress is a partnership Ms. Hayes has just talked about with North Carolina Central and Branch Ed to increase the number of teachers of color through innovative strategies. We also have our affinity groups to provide support for our teachers and staff of color. And for next steps, several areas that we're looking to explore include sustainable grow our own programs, such as a CTE pathway for our DPS students, and reinstating our recruitment pop-ups at locations across the city. One additional item to add is that we have in progress is our continuous collaboration with partnership with NCCU's Marathon Teaching Initiative. Next slide. By 2028, at least 90% of DPS educators and staff will agree that their school or department is a good place to work and learn based on NCDPI's teacher working conditions survey and annual employee engagement. Team members include Dr. Hunter, Nelson Searles, Terry Phillips, Darnice Massey, Anya Ziedman, Robin Brooks, Pablo Friedman, Anitra McGinnis, Gloria Sanchez, Marika Forbes, and Ala Mehu Bata. Our goal team leads at that. By 2028, at least 90% of our DPS educators and staff will agree that their school or department is a good place to work. We met our goal at the end of 23-24 with 88.6% of staff completing the TWC and 81.6% of staff completing the employee engagement survey. And we're on track to meet our goals again this year. Our next steps, next slide. Next steps include additional collaboration with HR and the Office of Professional Learning based on information received from employees to create training sessions based on the feedback from the employees. And with that, are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hager. Ms. Hayes, welcome to the boardroom. It gets easier. No worries.
It's hot.
It is hot. Colleagues, questions, comments? Mr. Tab.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Go back to Goal 3A, and we talk about by 2028, reducing the turnover rate. With our crisis with the bus drivers, has that changed our ideal of 2028 because we're in a crisis, or we stay with, because this is a strategic plan, we kind of stay right there with that?
Do you want me to answer?
If you can answer.
That's an excellent question, Mr. Tab. I would I would like Ms. Hager and Dr. Lewis to have an opportunity to discuss that. And should he have recommendations to modify the strategic plan, he will bring that to us.
Great answer. I was going to say that. We had just talked about it earlier this week and just thinking about some modifications. So
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Harold Goff.
This is just a general statement. I think we've spoken. I just want to say, I want to edify the district for our strategic plan and for whatever amendments or things that will come in the future. I think that our strategic plan is a very unique one compared to a lot of things that a lot of other districts are doing. And I'm proud of the work that goes on, all the nooks and crannies and all these things that are happening. My one critique that I have today is an overall one, not just for this. It's just that a lot of this data, the way that it's presented, is hard to understand, to tell the story. And so I want to challenge us to figure out how we can articulate the data and the growth and the movement for the public in a way that is more, whether with charts or to make it come to life more so that we really see the work that's being done underneath. I would just like to challenge us to all think about how that could look. I don't feel that a lot of what's really happening and a lot of all of the good things that we're doing translates I'll just leave it there. It's hard to really grasp what all is really taking place. And I think that a lot of our community members would really appreciate being able to digest it in a different way. So maybe the way that we report out looks more like just really showing the movement of the metrics, or I don't know. I'm going to leave that there. I don't know. I just wanted to offer that as the one thing. Like when we have time to really get down into the meat of it, I know there's a lot of good work and we know that it's moving. It's just really hard to articulate it.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
Yes, yes. And it's
And painting the picture.
it's excellent. And I know, you know, as one of my concerns is that, you know, how we share that story, and make it, you know, how we tell that story through our data. I'll leave that there. I don't want to continue to belabor it.
Dr. Lewis.
Thank you so much, Board Member Harrigal, for lifting that. And I will tell you, we had those conversations at a recent cabinet meeting. And when we began to look at Strategic Priority 2 draft presentation, well, when you see it, you'll see numbers. And because you Ms. Hager mentioned some numbers in terms of percentages and the goals that we've met. You'll see that in the first couple of slides in Strategic Priority 2 update. So you're right, we definitely want to share our story in terms of the gains that we've made, and also the challenges as it relates to us, particularly not meeting a goal, so we can address those challenges head on. But yeah, we will share those numbers in a more cohesive way that really honors the work of what's behind the numbers, right? And so it's good for the numbers to move, but we want to make sure that we're sharing that, and I see my 5 minutes is working, and also sharing the work behind those numbers. And so we've already made those adjustments to the next strategic plan update.
Thank you. Ms. Byer?
Ms. Hager, just wanted to thank you for your leadership, and please extend gratitude to your entire team. I know that this board would agree that this is one of the most critical areas of our strategic plan, because retention of staff deeply impacts and improves outcomes for students, and experienced staff impact the district as a whole. I just continue to encourage you all, and you, Dr. Lewis, as you're thinking about how to continue to help us rebuild trust with errors that you all didn't make, that you're here to clean up, that maybe as we have these dollars and decisions kind of workshops, that we maybe target one at staff, because clearly we need to show folks that we are investing in them. And, you know, there's some comments of pain that keep coming to our podium. We feel them for our employees. And we also live in difficult times where we're dependent on what the state does fund for folks. And I just want us to kind of think of ways that we can invite, I know you all are already doing it, invite the voices of critical employees in to help us shape this work. We talked about that in a meeting today that we had. I know you're thinking creatively about all of these things, but this trust was broken pretty profoundly. And I'm glad that our people that are critical of us are sticking with us while we work through this. And we've got to rebuild that while we're physically sound going forward, and in ways that we craft a budget that we can maintain. So I don't know what that is. And I would say that a big part of it still is that we have a chunk of employees on two different ways of paying them. And so helping us figure that out in a way that is clearly communicated to folks, I think, will be critical. But thank you all for leading this work.
Thank you, Ms. Byer. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. The next item on our agenda is Operation Services, Transportation Services Update, Recruitment and Retention. I appreciate y'all keeping the previous conversation brief and in our time limits. Let's see where we land here in this 30-minute bucket.
Yes, ma'am. We will do our best.
I believe the light's gonna come on at the 5-minute warning.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Lewis. Pleased to be standing here with Assistant Superintendent Human Resources, Kim Hager. We will be presenting this information together. We will first yield to our superintendent, who has got the first few slides to talk about as we talk about retaining, recruiting, and sustaining our drivers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Webb. Good evening again, board members and members of the public. We want to begin this presentation as we look at retention and retaining. And I was talking to some folks in the community that just yesterday, as a matter of fact, at a Rotary meeting, that pushed me a little farther in terms of, I always say retention is the new recruitment. And he shared with me during his time in the HR department, yes, retention, but also what are we doing to sustain our employees as well, so that they can, once we retain them, that they end up staying with us hopefully through retirement. So I wanted to begin this talking, next slide, to talk about it from a national standpoint. I know you've heard in previous presentations that, you know, Durham is not the only one that's dealing with this, but as we began to look at some of the data from the national standpoint and some of the additional research, it helps us kind of craft our responses to retention and recruitment. Next slide. So the ongoing national school bus driver shortage definitely remains a high priority. In a survey that was given a couple of years ago, 88% of the survey respondents reported that the driver shortage has constrained their school transportation operations. And this was a survey that was given to transportation directors across the country. And that 88% is up 10 percentage points from the previous year they gave that survey at 78%. And so as you can see, it's definitely a national issue in terms of just not only the shortage, but the strain that it's putting on school systems across the country. Next slide. And so as we think about this, without enough bus drivers, school districts across the country have been forced to try many different remedies or tactics, including staggering school schedules, expanding walk boundaries, having other school employees drive buses, and other measures. Districts have also been forced to reduce services in an attempt to counteract the strain on their transportation. And I highlighted this quote that states that the bus driver shortage is a problem across the country that will force districts to increase walking distance, do group stops so that they can cut times to do doable routes. loaded buses to capacity and more. And so that's something, as you notice, we haven't necessarily looked at loading buses to capacity because some of our buses are already full. And so we want to make sure we approach this from the standpoint of student safety as well. And so that's the problem. So we don't want to spend our time admiring the problem, but also have an opportunity to look at some of the research from these national surveys, from these national studies with school districts grappling with bus driver shortage. And so the National Association, next slide, the National Association of Pupil Transportation looked at bus driver shortages that are a widespread national problem. And a recent study that was done in partnership with them, the University of Albany, looked at drivers' motivations to retention. And so they looked at strategies that revealed that most drivers are more likely to stay in their positions for the long term when they feel like that they are a true part of the education team. And I've shared in this space before, even before digging deep into this research, when having conversations with our transportation staff, they said some of these same things. And so some of the research-based strategies from a national standpoint to overcome workforce challenges are listed there on the screen, including holding stay interviews, which is what they just talked about in Strategic Priority 3. Tighten efficiency in routes, retaining drivers through appreciation. Again, we've had our DPS Foundation step up in a major way. Just yesterday when I shared, in every space I'm in, I'm sharing this information and asking our community to assist us and just honoring our bus drivers. And so the Rotary Club that I was able to speak to yesterday after the meeting came up to me and said, hey, we want to do this for you. Talked to our Council of PTA. I had a meeting with them yesterday. They are looking to do some things to assist us with just that appreciation piece. Competitive compensation and benefits is an area that has been shown to retain bus drivers. Improving working conditions, which we've talked at this table about. Training and development opportunities. During my conversation with El Centro, they do beginning Spanish entry-level courses of teaching Spanish. And during my conversation with some of the bus drivers, as I was riding the bus, I asked the bus driver, I said, how much is language a barrier to the work that you do? And what she shared with me, it's a huge barrier and can be a huge barrier when there's a safety issue and I have to direct students, and so partnering with El Centro, I do believe that's an opportunity for us to provide our bus drivers with maybe some Spanish, entry-level Spanish classes, and then maybe seeing how we can compensate them for that as well. Training and development opportunities, and then recognition and rewards to service. And so I wanted to, at a high level, just paint that picture from a national standpoint, what some of the national data is saying, but not only that, what are some of the research is showing us as we begin to look at ways that we can recruit and retain bus drivers. Next slide.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Board members want to state clearly and for the record that Ms. Hager and I are committed, fully committed, and we're locked arms and with our departments to pursue recruitment, retention, recruitment, support of our bus driver family. So I start with good news. The transportation, next slide, please. This slide is incorrect. This slide says the transportation has added 9 current employees from our schools. Update, we've added 13 drivers who have stepped up and said, we can help, we'll join. We have new employees as well. So we have several drivers we got gained drivers from route updates and from the new family responsibility zones and from our own transportation team. Our mechanics, our office staff have all stepped up and said, we want to help. Recruitment, training, and onboarding efforts are continuing and will be an ongoing process.
Simply put, next slide, please. DPS needs bus drivers. Everybody knows it. DPS needs bus drivers. That's our major, what we're having to say tonight. Recruitment strategies, recruitment strategies, recruitment strategies. We are laser focused on the recruitment of bus drivers using strategies both tried and true and innovative. So thinking about things that we can do that are out of the box. We have to ensure competitive pay rates while working in collaboration with Mr. Teeter to make sure we can implement initiatives around ensuring those competitive pay rates. A career fair, Ms. Hayes has already Mentioned earlier in the earlier presentation has been rescheduled for February the 12th, and our teams are already working together in preparation for that. Pop-up events, outdoor yard signs, tried and true things that we know that works, but also thinking about things outside of the box. And then the last piece that I wanted, the last bullet, focused monitoring of the effectiveness of these recruitment efforts, right? We went to an event today. How many folks were there? Was it worth our time? Was it worth our resources? Those kinds of things. So having those ongoing conversations and making sure we're providing that feedback. Next slide. Again, designated transportation staff will continue. Mr. Barnes is here with us tonight. Recruitment, training, onboarding, and assistance with licensing new employees. So transportation team, again, in collaboration with HR, have both designated and dedicated staff with all aspects of our recruitment efforts. Next slide.
But it doesn't stop with us. It also, it's going to take a community. It's going to take a community engagement. And while this is just beginning, there are several community initiatives afoot. A more comprehensive list of possibilities will be provided soon. And while not specific to recruiting, these initiatives are an example of things that can aid in the overall safety and efficiency of getting students to school. We had a meeting with the town of Durham, the county of Durham, about City of Durham Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Bike Durham, there's an event planned in May of walking, rolling, getting to school. And then even ad hoc groups, and this is in its infancy, but we've had an ad hoc group by a community organizer who wants to call groups together to help support the school system in getting our children to school. It's going to take all of us, and that initiative has begun.
Next slide. One more, next slide, please. Working conditions must improve. While there are many things that we are working on, the working conditions simply have to improve. Our goal is by 2028 that 90% of our employees will say DPS is a good place to work, and that includes our bus drivers. We're having ongoing conversations. We were in a meeting with the bus driver earlier today for feedback. Simply stated again, driver conditions need to improve, and we are focused on those. Next slide, please. Some of the initiatives that we're looking at: driver recognition, both formal and informal, break spaces. Dr. Webb's going to talk about that in just a moment. Establishing school level support and a transportation advisory council. We want to hear from our drivers. We heard from folks loud and clear, not just folks around this table making decisions, but folks that are in the trenches and on the ground and in the buses, helping our students each and every day get to and from school. Next slide.
We've discussed the possibility of break spaces. The break space is a designated location for our drivers to use between routes. These spaces should be made functional and areas to relax, connect, and maybe even grab a snack. It might require some space modifications, and we're going to make this a high priority, not just the transportation department, but all of operations and our school folks working together to provide those break spaces. So this is going to require a little bit more study and upfitting of some facilities, supply, logistics, and communication to drivers, but we have a plan. We already are establishing a break space at Holton PLC. The principal volunteered that space after meeting with at our principals meeting, where we talked about communicating and supporting our drivers. And Mr. Barnes has come up with the idea of finding a location at the old Northern High School as well. And that's just the beginning. We want to make sure that there's a quality of life and a quality of work for our drivers, our driver family during the day and at all times. Next slide, please. It's also going to take school level support, and here's some examples of what schools can do to support our drivers. A disciplinary process review and support for student behavior. Flexibility for the possibility of dual role employment and/or certified staff as supplemental drivers, staff volunteering to ride along as bus monitors, school level recruitment and referrals, and that's already happening, access to facilities such as restrooms, computers, cafeteria, and inclusion in school community events. Next slide. Next slide, please. Some other considerations. We've reached out to external vendors that can assist us with driver recruitment and onboarding, and we're in discussion with those organizations now. It says we held, but the snow had a different mind for us. We will hold a classified employee job fair. This has been mentioned a couple of times, and this is just the start. We hope to do more. Again, it says we identified 9. That number is now up to 13 employees with a CDL and passenger PS endorsement who are willing to drive, and that's over the last couple of weeks. We've had several employees contact transportation about the process of getting licensed and driving, and we're following up on those with fidelity. Also, we're developing metrics and standards that will allow us to determine the effectiveness of each initiative. Ms. Hager mentioned that a moment ago. We want to make sure we're doing the right work. The ultimate metric, however, will be effective and consistent transportation services for the scholars of Durham Public Schools.
Next slide, please. This is a living, working document. The need for retention, recruitment, and support is ongoing, and it's going to require a paradigm shift. And so really just thinking about how we're thinking about this issue, how we're all grappling with this issue, new ideas and opportunities will be incorporated into our plan as they emerge. So we are looking forward to this collaboration, also involving our CFO and his department, but really thinking about how it takes all of us to really grapple with this issue of transportation, bus drivers, and getting our babies to and from work. So with that said, questions?
Thank you both so much, colleagues. Ms. Harold Goff.
Thank you so much. I wrote down a bunch of questions, but I'm only going to ask 2. The first question is regarding the break spaces and additional school level support for bus drivers. Are Holton and Northern being immediately implemented for bus drivers? Is that an immediate thing that's happening currently while we're working on longer term solutions? And there's the second part to that. Well, go ahead.
Sure. Holton farther along than Northern. Mr. Barnes and I, and Mr. Barnes and his department have been working about the business of getting the buses rolling since rotational coverage ended, but we'll be moving forward. He and I will be scoping out Northern very soon. So that one, not as quickly as the first space, but that will happen this year in one capacity or another. Yes, ma'am.
All right, like before the end of the school year?
Yes, ma'am. That's the plan.
Okay, and then the second half of that question is, have all principals and transportation workers been notified that bus drivers can use staff bathrooms at all DPS facilities as long as they show their ID at the front door?
So yes, ma'am, in our principals meeting, I mentioned that in our last principals meeting, we spoke at length about it. Dr. Lewis as well spoke to the principals and has made it clear, and then I think Dr. King has spoken with them as well. Please allow our staff members to come to your building. And the principals seemed a little upset that there was a feeling that they couldn't do that. All of our principals want to cooperate. All of our principals want to make that opportunity available, and we communicate that out. And Mr. Barnes is working with our employees and trying to get as much information out and availability out as possible.
And so our bus drivers know that as well, they've all been notified that is something that they can do?
Yes, ma'am, to my knowledge, but we can certainly reiterate that as well.
Okay, and then my last question is why does DPS have to establish a transportation advisory council? I believe our community and stakeholders are already doing that work, and we've been plugging into that. It seems to me that establishing the meet and confer feels like a more efficient and systemic way to plug into that kind of organizing. So I'm wondering, are you talking about establishing something separate to a meet and confer?
Well, above and beyond either of those, there already exists a transportation advisory board within operations. Further, we're looking to work with our employees and our stakeholders above and beyond any other organization. We want to concentrate our efforts, and this is something that we're working on to work for our employees, with our employees. No disrespect to any other organization. We want to work with our existing Transportation Advisory Board and expand that.
Okay, that was my clarity. They were saying to establish and so as if something hasn't already been established.
It has, and we just need to expand that.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. Ms. Harold Goff, thank you. Thanks for answering her questions. Much appreciated. I'm going to ask my colleagues to stay on the topic of transportation and recruitment. We're not discussing meet and confer tonight. Mr. Tab.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the work. I really appreciate that. Quickly, in terms of, well, first, thank you all for answering. I sent you all a lot of questions, so thank you very much for answering my questions. I do want to highlight just one of my questions was about referral pay and about bonus. Can you explain a little more how the bonus is working? And I know you in there it says something about a stipend to bus drivers, so I want to make sure that
So,
I'm clear with how you're doing that.
right. So in the past, we've had the attendance bonus, and that's the bonus I think was mentioned in the first presentation when Ms. Hayes talked about priority 3 and what we're doing to retain our bus drivers. But again, we're working with Mr. Teeter to make sure what are we doing moving forward as far as attendance, referral, sign on, and those kinds of things, because it's going to take money.
Right. So are bus drivers also getting the opportunity, if they do extra routes, are they being paid for that, or is that all part of their just hours in the day?
So I defer to you.
It currently just part of their normal hours. If they work 4 hours, they get paid for 4 hours. We've looked at possibilities. Again, that requires resources to supplement those extra duties, or it's really part of their primary duties, but we appreciate what they're doing. And at this point, if they work 4 hours, they get paid 4 hours, or that they're being compensated for their hourly work.
So I just want to be clear, because when it says bonus or extra duty, it makes it seem like they're doing something above and beyond what their normal time is. Because we did it for teachers, and that's why I know this, because for teachers for doing planning periods and things like that, that went above and beyond. So I just want to make sure that we're probably trying to put some of that stuff in with bus drivers would be nice.
And that is part of the conversation moving forward. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have about 4 minutes left on this topic if we're going to stay within our time limits on our agenda. I did have a follow-up question on Mr. Tabb's question. What about our employees that are staffed elsewhere that are helping to drive buses? Can you tell me about their compensation, their treatment, if there are benefits and appreciation for those bus drivers?
I'd like to bring up our recruiter in chief for that.
Okay.
Mr. Barnes. If you
Mr.
can talk to
Barnes,
us.
as you come up, can you think about the folks that were doing it before you asked and the folks that are doing it now that you have asked them?
First of all, the agreement was for me to stay behind the scenes, but since yeah, it will be. So if you are a salary employee, you are being compensated at $25 an hour. If you're an hourly employee, you're being compensated at time and a half of your regular pay. So each person pay could be different, depends on what their job is in DPS.
Thank you. Any other appreciation or thank yous or anything else that bus drivers are getting that those folks may or may not have access to?
We are going to do some appreciation lunches for them. We haven't gotten around to all the bus drivers yet. So this Friday, Mr. Leak and I are cooking for the transportation employees at Hamlin Road.
Wait, y'all are actually doing the cooking?
Mr. Leak is gonna do most of the cooking.
All right, I need to take this test
I-
so I can be a bus driver.
I am going to supply the food for this week's luncheon.
Thank you both for doing that.
Yes, ma'am.
That's nice. Colleagues, anything else? Miss Carter Otten.
I think this, well, I'm not sure who this is going to be for, but I was curious to know more about the differentiated positions and what that would look like.
We overlap.
That's great.
Differentiate, I'm not,
On slide 14, there's
Correct.
retention working conditions initiatives, and it's part of that list, and it says differentiated positions, part-time or supplemental, and just wanted to understand what that could look like in DPS.
So that's just trying to appeal to folks that may just want part-time work, moms with children in school, et cetera. So we're thinking about everybody that we can talk to about coming to be a bus driver. It doesn't have to be a full-time, it could be part-time. You might just do morning, you might just do afternoon, but how we can think about shifts and that sort of thing as we recruit folks, because we have parents, we have people in our DPS community that we could invite to become bus drivers, and we want to be creative about what that looks like.
Absolutely, that sounds excellent. Thank you. And I just also wanted to say two other notes of gratitude. Really excited to hear that you're developing these metrics and standards to determine the effectiveness of this. I look forward to seeing how things evolve over time as you see what works really well and what's not. And then thank you so much for including a link at the end of the slides to questions that had been submitted and responses. It's so useful to have all that information in one place for us and maybe the public too. Thank you.
thank you. And thank you, Ms. Hager. My brain seeped out of my head when you asked me that question, so I do apologize. I drew a blank. Thank you.
Would also, again, when we talk to our transportation team and hear some of the barriers as it relates to either recruiting bus drivers or retaining bus drivers, we're looking at everything. There's an average cost of probably around $420 just for a bus driver to become a bus driver in Durham Public Schools. So we'll be having some conversations and maybe some asks as it relates to how we can support our new recruitees with that. In addition, every 2-3 years, I'm looking back at their transportation team, they have to every 3 years, get their license, and that's a cost there. And so as we think about retaining our current bus drivers, we can take that worry away from them. So we're exploring all things transportation to recruit and retain our bus drivers. And then my last comment is the National School Bus Driver Appreciation Week is February 10th through the 14th. Again, yes, I want this community to go all out for our bus drivers. And even after that week, into March and May, still let's show ways we appreciate our bus drivers.
Ms. Chavez.
Thank you all so much for working on this and your just enthusiasm and creativity around thinking about recruitment and retention. I wanted to say I appreciate the national data, the addition of that's really helpful when we think about our context and then zoom out a bit. And then I just have a comment. I think my other kind of questions have been answered. But I really think one of the major keys to this is working on those working conditions. And so I appreciate the work you're doing to look at that from all angles. I think we'll need to continue to listen keenly to our transportation employees, build off their expertise around their own experiences, and then also build off of the organizing that's already happening within our transportation staff. So thank you all, and I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hager.
Awesome. The next item on our agenda, colleagues, is current year budget challenges. Mr. Teeter, are you kicking us off? Or Dr. Lewis? Okay.
Good
Dr.
evening,
Lewis.
Board Chair Rogers, board members, Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis has the first slide to get us going, and then I will carry us the rest of the way.
Thank you so much, Mr. Teeter. January 15th marked 100 days for me in Durham Public Schools, and an opportunity to look at a lot of the feedback that we received during the listening and learning sessions, just meeting with different internal staff and external community partners. And I think I shared earlier, I will share the full comprehensive post-entry plan next month. But there was an opportunity for us to, you often talk about low-hanging fruit and fruit on the ground. There was an opportunity for us to be responsive immediately as it relates to some of the things that we've heard. And this notion of transparency and accountability. And what we heard during those listening and learning sessions, we asked about 5 questions, and probably in 3 of the 5 questions, somehow transparency and accountability comments were given to us. And there was one question where we intentionally asked, what should be our priorities going forward, given our financial challenges? And so, based on the comments and the feedback that we've heard from that, transparency in financial decisions was loud and clear in that particular question. It was a significant concern among participants. Many of the respondents agreed that there was a need for us as a school system to provide greater transparency and accountability in our financial decisions. And so I often say, it's great to give surveys, it's great to have focus groups and listen to people and take notes. But if you're not responsive to that data, the likelihood of them completing another survey or attending a focus group is very slim. And so we didn't want to wait until the end of February to start being transparent, so to speak. And it was timely because Jeremy was coming on board and really digging into our finances. And once he got to a point where, okay, I'm ready to share where we are right now as an update, we wanted to share that publicly. And that's the press conference that I mentioned earlier. And so the respondents were sharing that ensuring that the funds are allocated and spent effectively and that the community is informed about these decisions. To Board Member Byers' comments earlier, the respondents felt that these decisions and these actions, if we're being transparent and accountable, can assist in building trust and ensuring that our staff compensation is accurate and the infrastructure needs are met. The respondents call for clear communication about how the funds are allocated and spent, and for more staff and community involvement in the decision-making process. And so what also came of that is those dollars and decisions sessions as well. There were also mentions of, again, these are their comments, there are also mentions of outdated financial forms, inconsistent policies, and the need for accurate and accessible financial information. North Carolina school finances a lot different than your budget at home. And so we want to make sure that we're providing just an opportunity to further educate internal staff and external community stakeholders on Durham Public Schools finances. The perception is that, again, with increased transparency, this would build trust and ensure that the funds are used effectively. And participants also shared the importance of being honest about our financial challenges and engaging the community in finding solutions. You've heard me say the answers are in the room. And when I say that, not only just this boardroom, but the proverbial room in the Durham community. But if we're not taking our time and providing opportunities for our internal and external stakeholders to provide that feedback, we're missing a golden opportunity. And so I'm excited about where we are in terms of uncovering our financial challenges, but also being able to address those head on. And so Mr. Teeter will share with you, he'll begin with the historic investment that was so appreciative of our Durham County commissioners investing in Durham Public Schools and all the people that advocated for that. He'll give a breakdown of where those monies went, and then also share what he's uncovered in his short 40+ days on the job. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Teeter.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis. And if we could transition to the next slide, please. So just this initial slide is a summary of the individual challenges and in some cases solutions that we'll talk about in a little more detail this evening, and the presentation does end with the same summary slide. So we'll circle back to this, and I'm on a timer now. So the next slide, we address the county funding that Dr. Lewis just referenced. If we could make our way to slide 4, thank you. And we sort of lift up the record investment that came from our Durham County Commissioners for the 24-25 school year. So a little over $27 million. And I think it's important to note, right, that's a blend of local resources as well as some ARPA resources for which we're the subrecipient. And so I think as we're conveying this, we're really trying to lift up our education effort and reminding folks about the implications of charter schools and that we don't get to keep everything that we get. And so we have a little over $4 million that came straight off the top of the local dollars that we received that we have to pass on to the charter schools, which left us with a little over 23 million to work with from that additional money that came. So a little 5.7 million and some change of that investment went to account for the cost of state raises and benefits for our locally funded employees. A little over 4.5 million for the increase in local teacher supplements, a little over 1.2 million for the local master's pay initiative, and we talk about that a little farther in the presentation. Compensation study implementation, right, the item that really just kind of stole the thunder for a while, almost $8.9 million to make some decisions there with classified pay. And I think while we're here, it's sort of important to lift up how that was administered. I think as we've been answering questions and working with groups of folks that have an interest in this topic, it's a good time to lift up just sort of how all of that transpired in terms of how did the pay situate at this point in time. And so prior to my arrival, staff was tasked with making comparisons to different models that were brought before the board. So there was the model that Carrie Crutchfield, the comptroller, prepared in terms of salary schedules. There was an Erie Success model that was prepared. And then there was a 3% raise from where employees were before. And so our staff had to work through comparing those 3 models to find what was the best for each employee. And so a lot of our employees, when they look at their checks, they'll see 2 different line items in most cases. One is their base pay that is on the Erie Success model that was ultimately adopted and reflects the new grades from the state of North Carolina with those new numbers. And the second line that a lot of employees will see on their check is labeled as a legacy differential, and that's sort of the label that we've applied to that in our efforts to hold them harmless to one of the other models that would have been more beneficial. And so I think that's a space where we get a lot of questions. We've done some communication around that with the Spark messaging, but wanted to lift that up again as we unpack what's occurred with the money. And that $8.9 million was definitely what we needed in order to make that happen and to honor the classified pay. So also as a part of that, those dollars, the county, we're benefiting from an extra $2 million to support capital outlay. Our normal appropriation from the county is $6 million. This time we've got a blend of $8 million. It's kind of a unique year. $6 million is coming from the county's ARPA dollars with $2 million of their dollars to arrive at that 8, but a $2 million increase to work with this year. And then also a commitment to help us support additional pre-K classrooms through those ARPA dollars. So a little over $716 per year. So we'll receive a similar amount for pre-K next year from those dollars. But just wanted to make sure that we laid that out crystal clear of how are these dollars used or what are they earmarked against. So the challenges come next, and I'll kind of work through them as quickly as I can. So I know that we've seen them a lot together in small groups. But so one, just the biggest challenge that the district has wrestled with, and we have seen this certainly in other districts, just in terms of the number of positions that were on the district's payroll. So we had 315 positions more than were in the superintendent's recommended budget this spring. Fortunately, 247 or so of those were vacant at the time that we conducted our analysis. And so we have been monitoring that as it has played out month by month to hem down that number I would just say that, right, we got to this point, as did many other districts, while they had the flexibility of hundreds of millions of dollars of ESSER funds, it was very easy to make decisions, to add things, to modify formulas. And we're just at the point now in Durham where we're having to walk off that proverbial ESSER cliff, as a lot of folks refer to that. And so we are working, so new finance officer, new assistant superintendent of HR. We've had some rearrangement on our teams, and we're working very tightly to put procedures in place to control how positions come to be, and making sure that if a position is created, it is in the superintendent's recommended budget, or we have made necessary modifications to make sure that it has been accommodated for in the budget. So obviously, that's the area that's gotten the most attention, and we're working very hard to manage this particular reality. Budget challenge number 2. So this relates to charter schools. So I will reiterate that at this point in time, Durham Public Schools is paying charter schools correctly. We are following the methods required by state law. But we just simply had a matter of Durham had not been budgeting enough on the line item for charter school payments to meet those obligations. And so it's just a matter of us correcting that line item in the budget. Unfortunately, is a large number, almost $9.7 million that we had to shore up to put that in place. But we've got the right people that are working on that, who are building those budget lines, who are monitoring those charter school payments, and we feel good about where we are in that process. And certainly, we will pay very careful attention to this line item as we develop the board's 25-26 budget. Okay, so the next challenge is our child nutrition program. This is something that is not necessarily unique to this year, but it's been brewing. So over the last couple of years, that program has been losing money, or not been posting a profit. Around the time that that trend started, we observed changes in the way that meals were being prepared and the sourcing of the food for those meals. And so ultimately, it just, the production costs increased for our meals in the district. Our child nutrition program at this point has exhausted their ability to cover those losses. So at one point in time, they did have healthy reserves. They're supposed to be self-sufficient, and they were for quite some time. And so I've recommended to the superintendent that we reserve $3 million of local funds in order to keep them from going into the negative this year, and to keep things as they are while we evaluate how can we continue to do the creative things we've been doing for students, but in a way that we can handle the production costs. So I would say a second tandem to that is just the CEP expansion in the district. That is not a component in this $3 million concern. And so we'll conduct a separate analysis on, has the participation been sufficient to support that change to a more broad CEP program in the district. So we'll have more to come on that in the near future. Slide 8 on local master's pay, we have talked about that extensively. So I think board's intimately aware of where we stand with that, that in the current model of that program for classroom teachers, $1.3 million more expensive. And we are working as a team to make sure, as we build the 25-26 budget, that we have accurate data to substantiate how many employees might we be funding for master's pay with local dollars. So I'm excited to work with Ms. Hager as we put things in place. Some methods there, do a fresh survey, and also we're contemplating whether or not we want teachers to actually add it to their license. So that's just something that we may have come up on the horizon as a solution for us to accurately capture our teachers who have master's degrees, or other employees should they become part of that program. Challenge number 5 on slide 9. This is something that we see a lot of conversations about across districts. They're having a hard time pinning down utility costs, and so that's something that's rising. When we looked at the superintendent's recommended budget from this past spring, we did not note an increase in the line items for utilities or waste management, and so we're advising that we reserve a million dollars, a little over $1 million plus 40,000 in order to meet those obligations. And then obviously we'll work very closely with the operations team and our energy folks to make sure that we're making an accurate projection for next year as we build out those line items. Slide number 10, where we talk about budget challenge 6, are the arts supplements that did not make it into the superintendent's recommended budget. I did get a board member question in advance of the meeting about the history of those. How long have they been around? I think they predate merger, and so it's been since 1991 that art supplements have been a thing in this community. So just no good explanation for why was not a line item in the superintendent's budget this past spring, but it's got a value of over $572,000 that we that and that's to support our folks working in the arts and music. For their additional responsibilities outside of the classroom. Next one on slide 11, we talk about the bus driver attendance bonus that was not developed in the line items in the superintendent's recommended budget. It is something that we have been doing, and so we had to make sure that those resources were made available in the budget to the tune of $145,000. The next line item, this has also been a sort of a common struggle or challenge for districts, and that's just the insurance market for property insurance, auto, workers' comp. These premiums are getting really hard to predict right now. They're increasing at pretty material rates, and so we needed to pull in an additional $139,000 to meet those obligations beyond what was budgeted. If this had been the only issue, I would have celebrated because everybody wrestles with this. And it's one of those things that we're just dealing with right now. And so, given the climate that we're in now, we can expect that those particular line items in the budget are really going to be amplified because the insurance market, we know that the Department of Insurance has recently negotiated some new rate increases, as well as there's some concerns with what's just going on in the country right now. The next slide, again, little less dollar value, but certainly important. And so that's the mileage reimbursements for our folks that are providing homebound services or providing services to our students who are hospitalized. So it's a little over $19,000 that was not included in the superintendent's recommended budget this spring that we needed to make available so that we could compensate our teachers for that mileage in delivering those important services. So then we get to a little bit of good news here for a minute. And so on the next slide, while we were in the process of unpacking these challenges, the state of North Carolina did make available to us a little over $1.1 million, acknowledging that they underestimated where our enrollment would be in Durham Public Schools for this year. So we had about 119 more students materialize than they had forecasted, so they had to true up our dollars and make those additional funds available to us. Hooray. And so I've worked with my team to budget those. And so that's been critical in working this puzzle. Next slide. This decision predates this administration, and it was recommended by Interim Superintendent Caddy Moore to withhold 15% of our local operating budgets while the new administration worked to understand what was going on. And so that was very, very glad that that decision was made. And so that made available to us $26.4 million to help make ends meet and make things work with this current budget shortfall. Additional staff actions. So again, we're continuing to monitor lap salaries and benefits as each month progresses. We do continue to see vacancies, and that continues to have a value for us to recoup some of this difference. We are working very tightly as a senior leadership team to evaluate the positions that we have here and the vacancies that we have here in central office to determine whether or not we want to fill those. Can we reorganize and absorb duties? In some cases, some of that work has already happened ahead of this presentation. And so we've, just as an example, the finance department collapsed 2 vacancies, and we were able to render about $145,000 in savings so far just with our team. Other departments have done similar work, and we'll bring some future updates to you on what we've been able to save as central office leaders in our effort to absorb some of this here in our efforts to shield schools. And then I get asked about this quite a bit, and so we are very close on our audit work. So we have completed the compliance stage of our external audit. Bank reconciliations are now current thanks to the hard work of a lot of folks on my team. And we are very close to digging into the final step of building the financial statements, and we look forward to having a fund balance figure that we can report for the board. And that'll help us also make some decisions here, or at least turn down the temperature a little bit. The last slide, again, is just that summary slide that we referenced at the beginning. And so I now have 20 seconds left. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter, for updating us. Colleagues, Mr. Tabb.
Thank you very much. I know y'all think I'm going to speak on about the arts supplement.
I can't control what happened when you were here.
So I'll go ahead and speak on it. I'm a little concerned about that because back in like 2016, we did a whole nother study on the art supplement because they had been frozen for like 13 years.
Oh.
And so we worked through that. And so I'm kind of concerned, how did it not get in this budget when we had worked so hard all those years to get it corrected in the budget? So if it's a mistake, let's just call it what it is.
Yep.
But I don't want to go back and like it wasn't ever fixed. Okay, so I just want to be clear with that
Yep.
little concern about how that did not get in the budget. But I do want to ask something about what Dr. Lewis said in a previous meeting about making sure that we had all our bills paid. And so have you done a kind of another look at making sure that we don't have bills that are hanging out there that is going to then impact this shortfall again?
So that's been fun. And so there have been, I think almost every day for my first 2 or 3 weeks, received kind of frantic communications about service was going to be turned off, children not being able to get access to textbooks, things of that nature. And so, and I will give tremendous credit to my team when I've asked them to make those things a priority to get those paid. They really went above and beyond to make it right, and in some cases hand-delivered checks to vendors to make sure that things happened. I will say that has really calmed down quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. We do have I would say a collection of maybe 3 or 4 invoices that we're settling up that came to my attention this week. So on the whole, I can't guarantee that they're all settled, but we have worked to react to everyone that's been knocking at our door for things that they feel like we owe them money for. And also as a part of the audit work that we've done, we've done some testing on that to see if there were any invoices that belonged to last year that needed to get to the right place. And so there may be 1 or 2 more things that pop up just because no one's complained about it or we haven't heard about it. So anybody we do business with who's listening, if you feel like we haven't paid a bill, reach out to us and we'll work on getting that resolved. But I think I feel like we're really close to that. So yeah, it's a very fair question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't have anything
Mr.
else.
Teeter, if I could just step in for a second, I want to speak to the issue around the arts supplements. I want to be clear and separate out the notion of the amounts being addressed and rectified and those amounts or the totality of those things being placed in the budget, right? So the issue has not been with how much we paid for those supplements, right? That has been clear. The issue is that there had been a long-standing process or a long-standing practice of not placing that total amount in the budget and simply paying it at a later date in the year. And so the reason why it wasn't in last year's budget ask is because we were done with the budget process before someone showed up and said, Dr. King, we have to pay arts supplements. We pay them every year. But again, they were never contemplated in the budget. So just want to clarify that it wasn't a matter of how much we paid them. That was clear. It's just that systemically had been left out of the budget and kind of paid on the back end, if you will.
So I'm assuming then, based on your statement, that that issue wouldn't happen again.
No.
No, because the idea is that, if it's an ongoing bill, it should be contemplated in the budget every year.
I just want everybody to hear that, all the arts people to hear that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Byer?
Mr. Teeter, I want to thank you so much for being part of Durham Public Schools and diving right into probably our most challenging work and department, and the way that you're collaboratively working with the rest of our team and our cabinet. I think one thing, there was some misinformation, I think, in some of the public comments, and saw you shaking your head. I wondered if there was anything you wanted to clarify that might have been adding confusion to folks listening.
Yeah, and I think, and I would just, I'll echo, something that Dr. Lewis said earlier, in that North Carolina public school finance is very complicated. We are perhaps the last state in the country that administers school system finance and budgeting the way that we do. And so I remember when I started, we were in a collection of 7 states or so that did it the way we do it, and now we're all by ourselves. And so we're, but at any rate, I would just say, so this is the situation that we're in is that we have an incredible relationship with our external auditors. So Durham Public Schools has the preeminent external audit firm for public school systems in North Carolina, and we've been cooperating with them fully to move the fiscal year 24 audit along and bring that current and resolve the issues that we know they're going to look at and care about. They, in tandem with that work, right, we've been very forthcoming with them about the budget challenges and the things that we're working through with the budget. And they have done extensive compliance testing on bills that we've paid, on employees' paychecks, and looking at our budget. And so I think it is important, for the public to hear that the challenges that we're working through as a new administration do not stem from situations that are fraudulent in nature. They don't stem from situations that are accounting errors, so to speak, right? But there was a budgeting process and staffing processes that needed more attention than what they received. And so we're working very hard to clean that up and make this budget balanced and make it in a way that is compliant. So just want to assure the public that we know where the money is, we know how the district is using it, and we've just got to bring it in balance and operate within the means that we have at this time.
I appreciate that. To me, the clarity is that there was not money that's missing.
Right.
It was under budgeted in several ways, and that's the points that you've delineated. I also want to thank Dr. Lewis and you for meeting with a lot of community groups. I think those conversations were really helpful with the Durham Committee, with the People's Alliance, with the Durham Association of Educators. There are others, county commissioners, right? And I know you've
And
been
the
in conversation.
delegation.
And the DPS Foundation and the Durham delegation to the North Carolina General Assembly. I think those were so helpful, and the feedback that they shared was really helpful. So thank you both for your leadership with that. And Mr. Teeter, you shared in one of those conversations your background, which people might not otherwise know, was in the classroom. And I thought you might want a minute to frame how you think about budgeting, because I think it's helpful.
Yeah, that's been a long time ago. But yeah, my very first job out of college, I was an alternative school teacher, and I worked with middle school and high school students who had been long-term suspended from their traditional schools. And I, on a daily basis, had 6 preps because I served middle school and high school for my content areas. Interestingly, right, I was in the classroom the last time school systems were having really big budget challenges and were making very difficult decisions. And we saw a change in the philosophy in our state government regarding education funding. And I heard some rumblings at that time that made me question if I would have a future in teaching, or if it would be worth what I was putting in. And some of the things that they were talking about doing at that time have come to fruition. They delivered on their promises for some of the things that were taken away or cut. And I remember 42 or 43 of my colleagues were dismissed from a reduction in force that year that first year of teaching. And my job was protected because I was at an alternative school, and central office leaders, and it was in Lee County schools, and central office leaders at that time made the judgment that no one else is, if these people are willing to be at the alternative school, leave them alone, and we'll make adjustments elsewhere. And it really made me think as a young person, like, what do I want to do with my life? And so I made a career change and went into finance. But very much as I think about teacher Jeremy, and I had no idea where my paycheck came from. I had no idea where the money for my supplies came from or why decisions were made. And so I do kind of carry that past version of myself in this work. And like I think about the issue with the invoices that hadn't been paid. And right, we had a situation where some of our students could not get their textbooks, and I was just absolutely appalled. And I thought about those teachers and how they were having to make pivots at the last minute to modify their instruction, and they were depending on those books being there, right? And then I thought about what that would have been like for me if I had been in the classroom, right? So I think, so I totally get it, and I respect what's going on in the classrooms, and then I carry that with me in the finance officer role for sure.
Thank you so much, Board Member Byer, for lifting that. And it's that experience that helps us with decision-making. And what Jeremy didn't tell you, he personally walked that check over there so the teachers could have their textbooks. And so when you have people in these roles that have had classroom experience, it's very rare that you find a CFO with classroom experience. It's very rare you find a COO with classroom and principalship experience, so that they bring that lens with them as they are making decisions, because everything that we do it for down to the classroom level. And so to have these individuals and others that have been there, now granted, we've not been teachers and principals post-COVID. Let me be clear, it's a lot different, and we recognize that. Yeah. But for him to say, I understand what a teacher goes through, I'm going to walk this check over here, I think is definitely value add to our school system. And I appreciate you for doing that, Jeremy.
Thank you both for answering those questions. Ms. Chavez?
Right. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. I really thank you for just your thoroughness. It's clear that you have, you are going through things very carefully and leading your team to make sure that every T is crossed and I is dotted. I wanted to, now I can't see your, I can't see you in your reaction, but I was gonna say, you start out with 6 preps, no matter, or no wonder you can handle the Durham budget, because you've been handling a lot for a long time. So, but thank you for all of this. I feel like this is I sometimes say this is our cleanup year. That's kind of how I feel. And so I think you've answered my questions up until now. I just want to say that looking at this and thinking about where we're going, I hope that, Board Member Harold Goff talks about our budget telling a story. And I think we also think about our budget reflecting our values. So I hope that going forward, we'll have a budget that really reflects our values. And I think, obviously one of the things that has happened over the last year is that our employees have felt the impact of these of financial errors and these different things that decisions that have been made or miscommunications. And so I appreciate that you can now hold that, you and your team can hold the sort of financial impacts and lead us. And so my hope is that our employees on the ground in the schools won't be feeling the impacts in the same way going forward. So that's just those are some of the things I'm thinking about. And then I just wanted to say, and I know this isn't exactly your only your lane, but this brings up a question for me around how we will look at our salary schedules going forward. So just putting that out there, I have to, think about that. I really appreciate, knowing exactly where the money was spent and how it was spent, the money that we got from the county. But I am just kind of led to wonder if there are some shifts or things that we'll need to discuss coming up in the coming months around our salary schedules. But I don't have any other questions beyond that. So thank you. Thank you for this work.
Colleagues, any other questions, comments? Did you want to respond to Ms. Chavez's comment? Or is that something we should look forward to in the future, like when the salary administration policy comes?
It is noted.
Okay.
I have been through salary studies in terms of the recipient of them and a contributor to the preparation of them. And so that is, happy to support Durham in that way. If that's, the boards and the superintendent's wish to move in that direction. So I think just in my mind, right, that's something that we do just a little bit later, get the audit done. And then we can talk that through and strategize that as a team, but happy to contribute to that and support that work however I can.
Thank you. Colleagues? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Mr. Teeter. Colleagues, the next item on our agenda is informational. Please review. I'm sure you have already. And after that is closed session. And I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda.
Aye. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tab. It's been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Mr. Tab to move into closed session for the reasons stated on the agenda. Is there any discussion? So I have a little bit. I want to thank our IT staff and thank our interpreters for tonight. Remind the community that we will not stream after closed session when we will hopefully approve the personnel report. And we thank them for being here this evening. And thank you for tuning in. Ms. Chavez.
This is Emily Chavez, and I vote aye.
Mr. Tab.
Aye.
Ms. Carter Oden.
Aye.
Ms. Byer.
Aye.
Ms. Harold Goff.
Aye.
And I vote aye. We're now in closed session.